Up next is a panel discussion on From Digital First to Mobile First Brands, Journey to the Future. I would like to invite Lalit Bhagia, Senior Expert, McKinsey, to moderate the discussion. Welcome, Mr. Bhagia. Over to you.
Welcome everyone to this exciting session where we're talking about being mobile first. Mobile first was actually a term coined by this celebrated product manager, now the product director at Google, Luke Wroblewski. He built two companies which are mobile first companies and sold both of those companies to Google and Twitter. So, we know for sure that this was a term which he coined back in 2009, 2010, was of absolute importance. When he spoke about mobile first, basically he had three things around it. He said, the growth of mobile is a huge opportunity to reach more people than ever. We all know, there are about 7 billion users of mobile today online, with anywhere between, 50 to 60% of them checking their phone right away after they wake up, right? The second piece that when he spoke about mobile first was the constraints of the mobile medium, which forces us to focus on what really matters. And I think that's a very critical piece, right? In the web and the desktop, when we have a large screen, there's so much more that we want to talk about. But when it comes to mobile, suddenly we have to start thinking everything very, very differently. And the third piece he said was that, the mobile itself gives us an opportunity to innovate quite a lot. So innovate not just in terms of design, which is the common parlance on mobile first, but innovate on the business model, innovate in marketing, innovate in the overall org strategy, and so on and so forth. And as we all know, right, from the time that term was coined to today, right, mobile is no longer another channel. It's in a world where, we all live by this user first strategy. Mobile is automatically the driving force for whatever we are doing today. And I mean, having said that, today it's about mobile. Tomorrow it could be an embedded device on your skin that does all of this. So we may get skin first, or some of us have already become watch first in a certain sense, right? So it's as user evolves, I think that's how things will happen. But I think overall the terminology means that as a new device like mobiles come in, how does it change the way we do business, right? So without further ado, let's start the interesting session with our panelists for today. Without further ado, let's start this interesting session with our panelists for today. Elizabeth, Akshay, Mahip, Chaya, and Ankit. Welcome to this amazing session today. Why don't you start about, telling us what you do today, a little bit of your background, and then one interesting thing that has changed for you since you've become mobile first, right? For example, for me, one thing that really changes, I've become massively health conscious. I check my steps daily. My mobile is connected to my watch. I track it. I record my diet. I eat healthy, and overall have become more health conscious. Why don't we start with Elizabeth?
Hi, very happy to be here. I'm Elizabeth Venkatraman. I look after marketing and alliances for Kotak Mahindra Bank. In my role, I'm responsible for leading the brand strategy as well as contributing to business and everything that comes along with that role. I've been with Kotak for 18 years, and in my previous roles, I've done the marketing for the insurance business, the wealth business, and now, of course, the bank, and the securities business as well. What I would say has been refreshing for me is my daughter studies in London, and we, how moms will miss their kids when they go overseas to study. But I think all the video calls, the audio messages, WhatsApp, all of that, and as well as wiring money to her, everything has become so simple because of mobile first. So very often when I'm talking to her, I can transfer money. So it's an absolutely delightful experience, and that's from me.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Ankit, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ankit Desai. I lead media and digital marketing for Marico. it's interesting what Elizabeth just spoke about, and that's actually part of my penny drop moment on mobile marketing, right? So I'll go back to an experience I had in 2018 where I was actually doing some consumer work on the outskirts of Dhaka. And Dhaka at that time was similar to India, low on infrastructure, internet penetration, mobile internet was a luxury, so to speak. And yet, when I was, walking amongst those people, and it was a colony of shanties, I could see at least 4 to 5 people, glued onto their mobile screen, talking on video calls to their relatives who were based in Dubai and so on and so forth. And that moment is when I realized, that line that we often hear about, right? That it's end users and not technologies that shape the market. That's fundamentally the moment where the penny dropped for me, and where I said that this device is going to upend, it's going to change everything that we as consumers and as marketers are looking at and will be looking at going forward, right? So there is no option but to prepare for that scenario. So for me, that was my personal moment of engagement with mobile marketing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ankit. Akshay, can you talk about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Lalit. Hey guys, happy to be here on this panel today. I currently had product development for all the growth initiatives at Bewoof, looking at all the responsibilities around growing user base, growing orders, growing the top line, bottom line, everything and anything around it at Bewoof, right? I've been associated with 2 key mobile first brands for over 4 years now. Was working with Paytm prior to Bewoof, had an opportunity and was lucky enough to see that side of the ecosystem also, right? For me, one of the most important so I've always been as a user, right? When I started using mobile phone, it was the QWERTY keypad, which was very popular, right? So I still remember the model. It was Nokia C3. I loved messaging on it because it was the entire keypad in one go, did not have to type 3 times to get to a letter, right? And coming from there to coming to touch screen, wherein you have everything at your fingertips, and then getting to know about the ground reality, wherein even if you are at the outskirts of a tier 1, tier 2 city, and someone is willing to accept a payment of as small as 10 rupees via mobile phone, right? That's something that says a huge amount of thing about this entire technology, about this entire piece, its adoption and its future. So for me, that has been a moment of realization wherein I knew that this is the space I want to be in. This is where I know the consumers will be. And this is going to be the future. So, I mean, and not just mobile phones, right? Anything with mobility, anything with easy adoption, and anything which provides comfort. So as Lalit said in the beginning, right, it could be smartwatch tomorrow. So would really want to see how this space evolves. And yeah, that's what excites me.
Thank you, Akshay. Thanks so much. Chaya, could you talk about yourself?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lalit. I'm glad to be here too. So hello, everybody. I'm Chaya Sivakumar. I lead product marketing for the ads and attribution MMP product here at Branch. And I've been doing growth and marketing for mobile first apps from a whole host of industries for the past decade. So all the way from fitness to video to social media. So really this is my jam, and I'm excited to spend some time in the near future at Branch building the next gen innovative MMP there is for privacy concerned brands out there. If for those of you who don't know Branch, we are an MMP that partner with some of the largest technology companies in the world to provide privacy forward, performance focused acquisition and engagement opportunities that help advertisers introduce their apps to relevant audiences and understand the impact on their media budget. My own fascination with the mobile industry actually started about 10 years ago. I think when that cusp between BlackBerry being the super cool phone transitioned to the iPhone. And in another life, I was a PhD student, like studying these matriarchal tribes in Indonesia. Anyway, long story short, when there were people in the tribe, supposedly, that I was studying using the iPhone, like texting me on the Facebook app, I think it was very interesting to see that we have passed that threshold and that breakthrough point where it has become the global medium of communications. And that time also overlapped with seeing my grandparents join Facebook. So I think a lot of it had to do with just the demographics and the global appeal of this new platform. So yeah, that's what changed me profoundly.
Thank you, Chaya. Thanks for sharing about yourself. Mahep, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks, Lalit. So, hi guys, my name is Mahip and I manage mobile marketing and SEO growth at Flipkart. Being with Flipkart from last now 4 years plus, and previous to that, I was associated with Big Basket, and previous almost 5 years with banking and real estate industry. So that's my background. Now, very interesting thing about smaller screens or mobile adoptions or mobile first that we are talking today is when I was shifting my career from sales and offline marketing to online. The first thing for me was the screens, right? I mean, the mobility it gives you, you can carry it anywhere, from www.x.com to getting into the apps and just do swipe right, swipe left was exciting me. And that's how my mobile marketing career started, with commonflow.com, where I grew their app, and again from Big Basket to Flipkart. And I think it's going to be very interesting in future, while smart watches, like Lalit was also mentioning, more things are going to come in future. But interesting to do marketing acquisition and look at growth and different strategy for future. So thank you so much for giving me opportunity to be on this panel. Very excited and looking forward.
Thank you, Mahep. Great. So we have a great set of panelists with us today. There is somebody from the MarTech space who tells us how to measure mobile and get better acquisitions going. There is an FMCG marketer, right? A hardcore FMCG marketer who's always talking about what he's seen on the ground, right? You meet any FMCG marketer, they'll always speak about what they've seen on ground. There's Akshay, who's more new age, comes from Paytm, Waveproof, and Elizabeth, who's seen the growth of the whole financial services space and how it's become mobile first. And of course, Mahip from Flipkart, I think the hub of what India has seen as going mobile first. Great. So I think we all spoken about how mobile first changed, and I think the interesting thing that all of you spoke about was a consumer change that you see, whether it was payments being changed, whether it's communication change happening, whether Chaya spoke about how people reached out to her, on BlackBerry and so on and so forth, right? So everybody's spoken about consumer behavior, but when we actually talk about mobile first, I think the most common parlance of mobile first has always been, are you designing for mobile first, right? And every organization that you speak to will always say mobile first means our web and app, our whole experience should basically be a mobile first experience. And it all started with saying you should do responsive, and then from responsive it moved towards native. But it's still a majority of it is in the common parlance still about design. But I frankly think it's a lot more than that. And having worked with a few different industries, I was working for an e-commerce company where we realized it was also about the kind of products people would buy when they would come to mobile versus what they would buy on desktop, right? The value of transactions for a fintech was very different from a mobile versus desktop, so the experience could be very different, right? Would be interesting to know what does really mobile first mean for you, right? Is it about design, or is it much more than that? Um, we could start in any way. I think Mahip, you could start with this, given Flipkart took the first step of saying at some stage we'll not have, actually not Flipkart, Myntra is saying we'll not have the web app and we'll not have a website and we'll have mobile. So yeah, you could start, Mahip.
So, I think just to cover that up, that the mobile first approach, in a definition form, right, means that you are basically designing for a smaller, smaller screens first, while even building a desktop site or something, and keeping in mind that user is there. So, I think about companies like us, one of the very important things is that what is your user base and where your user stays, right? So for example, most of the new set of users are not coming from metro. I'm sure it is true for most of us here sitting. And if it is tier 2 and tier 3, the first source of internet in India is still a mobile phone, right? I myself is from tier 2 city, from Prayagraj, and if I still visit, my native and, meet people, most of the houses still does not have, although it's a tier 2, tier 3, it's even more penetrated towards, the 4Gs of the world. And, people do everything, including their online classes today on their mobile phones, right? So this basically makes brands like us think that if you are designing, or let's say launching a feature, is it mobile first? And I think it is going to become important, because it is not just a design, right? It is also about how is your funnel looking like, right? If somebody is coming onto your site, on your app, and going to do a transaction, is the funnel more superior or linear, right? And basically, to optimize that particular funnel, as a process, is going to become more a mobile first optimization. And that's what people will do in any domain, right? Whether it is games drop off, whether it is basically an e-commerce website, whether it is a banking funnel where how the usage is, or any other product, right? So I think that's my view about it.
Yeah, thanks, Mahip. I think interesting point. You took the funnel approach like a marketer. You spoke about how the funnel changed. Elizabeth, would love to hear from you, right? One of the big disruptions that's happened in India is the rise of fintech, right? And I think most of our panelists also spoke about how payments changed for them and what they saw. You've been with Kotak and you've seen the whole journey. And Kotak's actually been, in a certain way, one of the pioneers of trying to build an online first account with the launch of 811, and then the mobile app itself, right? What does it really mean for you? Is it still about design? Is it more than that?
I think it's what you can do with the mobile. When you say mobile first, what all can you do with the mobile when it comes to that? So for a customer today, we all know that more customers, bulk of the customers are using their mobile. But from a financial services perspective, and now specifically banking, you can open a bank account in 5 minutes on the mobile. So I'm just going to, just move it to what the customer can do. The second thing is the customer can even do a video KYC today. We were the first to launch a downloadable bank account. We were also the first to launch a video KYC facility on the mobile. So all these things have happened recently, and this is because of mobile first. So between UI UX is hygiene. You have to get a good design, a good interface, an easy user experience, very low friction. All of that are, I think, givens. But I think what all you can accomplish without going anywhere physically is really what, the heart of the challenge, for all organizations to enable customers. The benefits, of course, are higher levels of engagement, much richer data to create hyper-personalization for us as organizations, so that the customers see far more relevant stuff when they actually log in and do their stuff. Then when I for a bank, I think you are really Bank of Ankit Desai, Bank of Chaya Shivkumar. You have it in your hands. That mobile can do 200 things. We had launched a bank from home when the pandemic started, which is BFH, as opposed to in complementary to WFH and all of that, because you can practically do everything except withdrawing money, practically do most of the stuff sitting at home on your mobile app. So I think that from a BFSI perspective, it's really, really very advanced on the number of things, including, of course, payments, which you've already covered, which you can actually do from your mobile.
Very interesting. So you spoke about a few things. You spoke about customer service, right? How do you really make it more easy for people, whether it's video KYC, or you spoke about new products, which is a banking at home in a certain way, which is a completely new offering for customers to just do everything on the mobile. Yeah, very interesting thoughts on it. Akshay, I would love to hear from you, right? How does the new age brand really think about this? I mean, do you really think that what people buy, I mean, you see that people buy very different stuff when they buy on through mobile versus what they buy through the desktop versus what they buy through offline?
Certainly, Lilith. So I would even take this in a bit of a different direction, right? I mean, first we have to start thinking about it from the customer point of view. How well are you catering to that customer, right? So the customer decision comes secondary, but at the same time, how easy is it for the customer to explore what he or she is looking for? And that's where Elizabeth's point on personalization, right? So all the brands in today's world, and especially apparels, or especially e-commerce, what you wanted to buy versus what your wife wants to buy could be completely different. How as a brand, how as a platform I can deliver that kind of content to you is on me, right? So jab wo time tha where businesses used to be maybe desktop first, where it was a single desktop in the home, or people were trying to browse different things for different individuals, that kind of solution was not possible at all, right? So that's where, I mean, the moment you know that Akshay came onto the platform, Akshay wanted to buy joggers, right? If Akshay comes back within those 24 hours time frame or within X minutes time frame, this is something I know Akshay might like even more, right? Or Akshay has bought this, I should pitch this to Akshay. So the kind of personalization you can bring, the kind of augmented reality experience you can bring, something we're trying to build right now is how this t-shirt fits you, right? How this t-shirt looks on you, how does so I think one thing which one of the online furniture players did very well. How does this piece of furniture looks into your living room, right? How does it fit there? And I think it's gonna be taken up by almost all the industries. So the kind of decision making it's gonna move, the kind of assistance it's gonna give to your users, the kind of personalization as well as shopping guidance it's gonna give to your user, it's immense. And we are already seeing this, right? So we recently also launched a content commerce piece, which was primarily allotted or which was primarily redirected towards how do we assist our conversions, how do we assist our customers to make better decision, right? And we saw decent and very significant jump in terms of conversions. When people see similar people like us wearing the same outfit, carrying it in different locations in external versus internal settings, the kind of decision making or the kind of assistance that get in decision making is super decent and super good, right? So if I as an influencer wants to influence you, I can be right there on that app, the product you're looking at, I can directly show, okay, these are the users who have bought it, and these are the users who actually wore it in this particular fashion. Now as a user, it's very easy for me to decide, yeah, I can relate to it now, right? So the kind of decision making it is doing, the kind of upselling it is doing, the kind of personalization and the kind of conversion it's resulting in, that's immense. And I think that's the power of mobile, right? So yeah.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Actually, I think you spoke a little bit about the topic of the topic that everybody's talking about, metaverse and augmented reality. You spoke about hyper personalization, and absolutely, I think with mobile there is so much more. I think both you and Elizabeth spoke about hyper personalization, right from the experience to notifications to nudges to everything else can become so personalized. Let's move to Ankit. Ankit, how are you looking at it as an FMCG player? What does it mean for you?
So, Lalit, the way I look at it is that people are spending more and more times on their screens, right? And we know, during the pandemic, the time spent on the screen has increased by as much as 45%. But the fact of the matter is that while now that means mobile UI UX is almost hygiene, it's equally important for us as brands to also understand why are they engaging with their screens, right? And till we don't do that, you're not going to be able to cater to them and therefore engage with them to achieve the objective that you want to. So one of the things that fundamentally I think we need to think about is it about optimizing for the mobile, or is it optimizing for people who are using that mobile and what they're using it for? And that's critical, right? Because as a brand, you might want to pitch, to them at the topmost part of the funnel, or you might want to go mid funnel or end funnel, right? But is your consumer actually willing to engage with you in that space? Or are you targeting the right cohort for the right part of funnel messaging that you want to go after them for? So fundamentally, I think it's important to get the hygiene right. It's important that you get your UI UX in place and all of that is taken care of. But equally, if not more important, is the fact that you need to do your prelim research as well as then follow it up with your analytics to understand where your consumer needs lie and where they want to engage with you as a brand. Only then can you actually, realize the full potential of what we are calling, mobile first or mobile first marketing per se.
All right. So I think Elizabeth and Akshay spoke about hyper personalization. Is that something that you are also doing stuff on, Ankit?
So yes, I think we are getting there. I think FMCG fundamentally has always been built on very broad cohorts, right? And traditionally, that's been the space that we've played in. as we see more and more D2C brands come up, and try and occupy niches which are more personalized, we are getting into a space of personalization, but obviously not hyper personalization yet. But that's really the journey. I think that we are headed over there.
Interesting. Thanks, Ankit. Chaya, I think you know all of this really well because you measured this to the nth level, right, at branch. So we'd love to hear your views as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it was very, very validating to hear the experiences and the opinions of leaders at Bewakoof and Flipkart and Marico and Kotak. I absolutely agree. And I think so much of being able to achieve a mobile first business is to be technology first. And over the past decade, the mobile space itself has evolved extensively, right? Like, once upon a time, mobile used to mean your phone. Then it became your smartphone. Then it became this mini computer on your phone or watch or what have you. So now it includes apps in your car, watches, tablets, the VR set. And the technical aspect of this is interesting as much as it's so challenging and so fragmented. As we think of the mobile market today, cross-platform can mean many things, right? It can be limited to same app on different devices or as broad as different social platforms or ecosystems with many apps in them. And then all of these giant walled gardens like Facebook, WeChat, Kakao, what have you. So mobile platforms also need to play well with each other. And given the complexities of the mobile ecosystem, doing it really well for a brand requires different and equally high-performing tech stack. And this is a team sport, as all of you leaders are well aware. Every individual component of your technology needs to play well with the other parts. Otherwise, the whole system just stops doing what it's supposed to do. And really, we're just scratching at the surface. Fragmented as these platforms are, we often see user journeys and brand interactions that may be broken solely because we did not have the technology, not because we did not have the intent to delight our users. I'm sure we'll dive into some of these topics later in this panel, but I just wanted to summarize this as most brands have to be mobile first today. It's not a choice. And it is one of the biggest and most important decisions senior executives need to align on. It's no longer just the marketing division making these decisions or product. It has to come top down from the highest, most important people. So yeah, I think mobile first is being technology first.
Got it. So I think while we are at it and while we're chatting with you, how has measurement changed, right? With everything becoming mobile first. You want to quickly tell us about that as well?
Yeah, totally. So for all of you who aren't too familiar, mobile measurement definitely allows your brand to iterate, improve, and grow, and to boost measurability and quality of your app experiences. With the introduction of iOS 14, the Android 12, announcements, the elections, the privacy sandbox announcements, COVID, really lots of changes in the mobile data privacy landscape, and keeping up with them is a full-time job on its own. Yet at the very core, our needs and KPIs as marketers has not changed. We still need to deliver seamless and relevant experiences to our customers all the time. So where measurement and marketing meet is, I'd like to say, in context setting. Maintaining context is incredibly important to satisfy user experiences and expectations, because losing context oftentimes means losing the intent of the user and oftentimes the user itself. And helping maintain and strategize context is a big value that we're seeing a lot of mobile first app developers want. And also we see a lot of marketing tech products actually pivot to start catering to these needs. One way to map user expectations, and something that we have seen some of the best performance marketing teams do, is to conduct perhaps install source analysis to correlate data better from their decision, from how they got this user through acquisition to all the way to the in-app efforts where they converge to cross-inform each other. It's interesting to know how some users interact with your ads, and then how they interact with your product, and then draw patterns from it to build a cohesive and end-to-end marketing strategy. So yeah, building unique cohorts, as all of your hyper personalization tactics like that a lot of our panelists talked about, that require us to initiate compelling conversion events because they have the right context, right? If you don't have the right context, you're not going to be hyper personalizing anything. And the ability to automate that and scale that is ultimately to the prowess of your team. And I think adding a layer of complexity to this is recognizing that not all our users are the same. I think some of our panelists also spoke about this, right? So as we acquire or engage different users, that experience is going to look different, and sophisticated cohorting and the ability to segment and retarget those campaigns is going to be a very critical sub-function of your measurement abilities. So ultimately, we want to know our users better. We want to know where they came from so we can better engage and scale that. So hopefully I've built up a pretty good case for everyone to go and consider how much you can monitor and evaluate and measure your campaigns.
Thank you, Chaya. Thank you for that, deep understanding on giving us a deep understanding on how measurements changing and how brands really need to look at it. I think what we'll do now is I'll basically do a quick fire, right, and maybe ask you one or two quick questions to each one of you, and you can just give us your thoughts on that, right? So we spoke about mobile first being more than just design first. Of course, design is important because when you lose 80% of your screen real estate, all the extra bloat that tends to find its way into large screen doesn't seem attractive or doesn't even have space on the mobile, right? We spoke about tech a little bit, right? So instead of coding a large screen web experience, you're now talking about smaller screens and lightweight, more semantic core foundation based design. We spoke about culture, and I think everybody spoke about it. Ankit spoke about 45% most time being spent on mobile. There's data that says the young Indians spend about 5.1 hours per day, up from 3.5 hours since the pandemic began. We spoke about marketing. We spoke about full funnel and how do you look at it. We spoke a lot about hyper personalization. Ankit spoke about analytics and segments and cohorts, how FMCG companies started to look at smaller cohorts to do stuff. Of course, we've spoken about behavior, and each one of you has also spoken about strategy as well. So question for you, Ankit, let's start with it. How are you looking at content strategy being changed with being mobile first? Is there some interesting stuff you're doing on the content side?
Yeah, so look, I think what has changed with consumption on mobile, Lalit, is that the cultural context itself has changed, right? From shared consumption to individual consumption. And the moment that happens, everything changes. The kind of content that they are consuming, the spaces they occupy, the personas that they don online, everything changes completely. And fundamentally, I think what this means is that they're also open to a lot more experimentation and engagement with brands, right? Which in turn opens up a host of opportunities, right? So in a nutshell, I think there's so much of cross-referencing of information that's happening via the mobile screen, and it's constantly happening in home as well as outside, that a lack of presence in that space actually might lead to brands missing potential purchase opportunities. And this, in a way, has led to a heavy focus on D2C, right, as an endpoint, and the entire build-up in terms of the mix that we create, that enables the consumer to engage with us within that space. So yes, there's a lot of content, yes, but finally, all of that content leads back to understanding what the consumer need is, what they're looking for, and in a way, can we service that need in a more personalized manner, allowing more personalized communication and engagement back with brands, and therefore building almost a virtuous cycle of engagement, finally, of course, leading to business.
Got it, Ankit. I think personalization is the key theme. I think we move from mobile first to personalization, hyper personalization. That's where it's moving. Elizabeth, what's your piece of advice to other financial institutions who are still struggling to get the mobile first going? I mean, two pieces of advice, quick ones, if you can talk about.
Advice would be a rather big word. I would just say that our experience, or what has been good for us, is what I would like to talk about. I think that it creates a lot of stickiness. Customers who are on the mobile, they're highly engaged, and it's stickiness, and it creates a whole, it has impact on CLV and things like that. So one must be very, cognizant of that. That's number one. And number two is to keep a very clean and interesting design. And there I would say that, I would take advice from the fintechs who are, nimble and simple and funky and very, very millennial. And so we have to be on our toes and pick up a lot from them. So yes, give and take as always.
Interesting. So you spoke about agility. I think that's a very critical piece, right? And I think we started off the session saying, customer first, with customer first, user first. You have to be agile as the behavior is changing, and very, very, very nice of you to say that. Fintechs are also doing very interesting stuff on it, and everybody should look at them. Mahib, you want to come and give us some marketing advice to people who are still struggling to be mobile first?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the key things of being successful in mobile first is your geo testing and continuous ABs that you should not leave, right? Because every 6 months we see there is a change in behavior of user patterns. It is different for different tiers of India that I've even seen in previous organization, and it is not going to be safe forever, right? So time spent on phone, or let's say the frequency of changing devices in last 2 years have gone up, right? And that you will only know when your own tools, or let's say mechanism, will keep knowing more about these customers. I think once you basically tackle that, the second step would be to also look at how your new versus repeat customers are behaving in different places of your delivery or the serviceable areas, or wherever the market is basically. And I think those are two key things. If you basically look at these, most of the things should fall into place, looking at where do you optimize, what do you optimize, and what your customer wants.
Interesting. So you speak a lot about doing tests, A/B testing, optimizing again and again, and seeing what is working, because you're saying the behavior is changing very, very fast. I think that's the second interesting theme that's come in. There's hyper personalization, and there is agility in the way we do things. Chaya, what's your piece of advice to everybody who's saying, hey, I will go mobile first? What does it mean in terms of, our business, right, in returns?
Yeah, no, great question. And, it's a good segue from what Mahip just spoke about. It was very tactical, and I think I'll follow in the same route and give some tactical, perhaps, suggestions to those scaling their activities for 2022, or really just dabbling with it and entering it, because some of our panelists are experts. And I think from a strategic level, exactly like what they're saying is what you should be aiming for. And yeah, if we could drill down a little bit of tactical advice, I would say, regardless of size and scale, a mobile first approach is important. You need it. And part of that is going to be your ability to enable the highest intent moments into in-app actions. Capturing high intent moments and framing installs, for example, as a reward for that intent is the core value. And providing that core value from your app is going to be the key critical turning point for your virality or success of every sort. And this requires you to think ahead, define your North Star metric, prioritize which channels you want to invest in, measure which channels yield the most engagement, ask honest questions like, what is the value of these users? Are they worth what I paid for them? And then, the ecosystem is getting harder to measure. Privacy rules are going to become more and more of a forefront for all ad networks and platforms. So don't judge yourself too harshly. Like, even the experts are at times tripping with this stuff, So it's getting harder. It's time to hustle. Just learn the rules of the game and ask the hard questions. And by the way, MMPs, like Branch, help with measuring and enabling unique engagement opportunities and experiences across platforms of every kind. And yeah, our customers have seen insane increases in their performance, over 200%, 3x increase in LTV, so crazy numbers. So yeah, again, all my suggestions would be just drill down into the technicality and try to exploit it.
So you brought the third piece into place. So after hyper personalization, agile marketing, you brought in data and design. I think Elizabeth also spoke about design. Akshay, up to you. How do you look at product itself, right? You're a product expert. How do you think about the product itself? What's your piece of advice?
Okay. So for me, I think when you look at the entire way D2C brands are growing in India, right? Almost now businesses can solely operate just on mobile. People don't even need other mediums. People are launching their brands on metaverse, right? So the entire mode is shifting. The entire user preference is also shifting. When we look at the global scenario, 62% of global smartphone users have made a purchase using mobile, right? That's huge. So when you look at e-commerce, when you look at any other online commerce industry, these numbers are super validating, right? And primarily beyond that, 90% millennials carry their cell phone at all the times with them, right? You don't lose sight of it. You don't lose any bit of it. So for a brand, for a business to be on mobile and build that product in terms of mobile first, I think two or three very important factors. First is, of course, everyone mentioned design is hygiene, UI, UX is hygiene. Second comes in the kind of experience you give to the users, right? So when you think about it from product point of view, it could be as simple as small as the page load time, right? The kind of experience you give thinking about different networks. When we are talking about tier 2, tier 3 customers, if the network connectivity is not stable, how does your page loads on 3G versus 4G versus 5G? How easy is it for your system, for your technical capability to provide that seamless experience across, right? That becomes super important. At the same time, it's not just your brand, right? When you talk about mobile, it's an entire ecosystem what you're building on and what you're selling. So it's super easy in today's time, right? You're looking at a product, you quickly share it over WhatsApp with your friends validate it, you make a payment directly, and at the same time, if you lose the sight of that over on cart page, you get a cart message from that brand directly on your WhatsApp to check out from there. So kind of ecosystem which is supporting the entire piece today, it's super conducive, and that's where the businesses should be. That's how the businesses should leverage it, right? If I'm We talked about in-app payments, right? There are tens of payment modes today. There is buy now pay later, there's credit card, debit card, UPI, XYZ. With mobile first, these are the things what can take your businesses to the next level. The kind of seamless integration you can do with these partners, the kind of seamless integration you do with the entire ecosystem, leverage that ecosystem for your own benefit. At the same time, give or deliver that customer centric experience to your customer. When you know that this customer has these mode of payments, right? And it could be so simple when you are able to provide the direct context. This was your address, this is the last pay mode what you've used. Do you want to express checkout now? You're taking away all the hassle of putting in details for that customer. So thinking about it from the customer point of view, it's super simple process. From the business point of view, you're saving a lot of leakages which could be there in the system, right? At the same time, banking on that ecosystem to deliver that enhanced experience. So I think from product point of view, it's very critical, the kind of experience you deliver, the kind of ecosystem you're living in, and how close-knit are you in a part of that ecosystem, the kind of customer experience what you're able to deliver with that.
Thank you, Akshay. I think you summed it quite well. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I think I'm just summing up what we discussed. We spoke about mobile first being hyper personalized, being able to hyper personalize mobile first, being able to do agile marketing, doing a lot of testing and measuring it. We spoke about mobile first being about using a lot of data and hence enhancing your design. And Akshay summed it up with this same thing. We had this KISS principle. He's put it into a MISS principle. Make it straight and simple. Get your basics right. Get the low page load time. Use the ecosystem. You don't need to build everything. There's so much happening out there. So you use what everybody else is doing to get your mobile first strategy right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for an amazing, insightful session. Thank you, Ankit, Elizabeth, Chaya, Mahep, and Akshay, and thank you to the ET brand equity team.
Thank you everyone for sharing your perspectives. Truly a very engrossing discussion. Now it's time for the next session. Stay tuned, everyone.